Hey guys, good morning. Happy Sunday. I'm going to give you a gangster story quick, okay? I'm going to go back to 1988 when me and Joey Calco shot the kid Mikey Hamster. Now, when we shot the kid Mikey Hamster, we honestly thought that he had something to do with John Polio. Till this day, I'm always thinking about John Polio, you know? I think about John Polio, how someone picked him up. He got in their car. Georgie Conti copped out to John Polio's murder. And who else was in the car? I know Frankie Mericondo was in the car. And I say to myself, I say, you know what? Did Michael Hamster jump in that car at the time? Because in order to get made back then, to be involved in a murder, you'll get proposed right away. And Michael Hamster was around Georgie DeChico at the time. Now, these gangster tales, look, they're interesting. They really are, I lived an interesting life growing up, surrounded by all these wise guys on Bath Avenue, all the trouble I got myself involved in, the murders I was involved in, some serious shit. I look back and I say, wow, it's a fucking amazing what I've been through. I served 14 years of my life in prison. And, looking back, it was a real waste. Thank God I cooperated, I did the right thing. And, moving forward, I always have this shit in my mind. I have PTSD. I'm always thinking back. I want to excel in life. I want to do better in life. Now, when this happened, my Uncle Tubby, my Uncle John, all my uncles worked for Midtown Collision on McDonald Avenue. I had a couple uncles, my Uncle Paul, my Uncle Joe, worked for Mike DeSantis, Obviously, my Aunt Carol married my Uncle Frankie, Mike DeSantis's brother, Frankie. And, so we had a lot of connections, with the mob, people we knew. I had Paulie G. He was tight with Tommy Karate. So when this happened with me, after it happened, Joey Calco went to Italy. I went to Manhattan. I stayed with my father. And Paulie G would come see me. And, we would, he would come pick me up. I would go back to his house. And this is when me and Paulie G got tight after they killed John Polio. So when this happened, these guys, the only thing they really listen to is other wise guys, Now, Georgie DeChico, he was a captain with the Gambino crime family. And at that time, being a captain, it meant a lot. It really did. Today, being a captain means shit. A title today is bullshit. Nobody gives a fuck about a title because everyone's got guns. The world is going crazy. Nobody gives a fuck about nothing. Look at Frank Cali, how, a fucking nut job killed Frank Cali. And it could go on and on. No one gives a fuck no more. I'm saying, as long as you got these, nobody gives a fuck. I'm saying you have access to guns. I'm saying nobody gives a fuck. I'm saying you got guns, I got guns. Nobody gives a fuck. Believe me, nobody. I'm saying you're here today, gone tomorrow. It's just the way it is. So my Uncle Tubby, my Uncle John, they were working for Midtown Collision. You know what I mean? So, Midtown Collision, they had a guy, Steve, there. His uncle was Carmine Lombardozzi. I'm saying Carmine Lombardozzi was called the doctor. He was really big in the Gambino crime family. So some of my family reached out to Carmine, and Carmine sat down for me. He went to go see Georgie DeChico. And, when Carmine pulls up, and he always was in a Rolls Royce. I'm saying he made tons of money in the stock market. He was very well respected and things like that. So I had a lot of people sit down for me when this happened with this kid, Mike Hamster, And, at this time, he was threatening all of us, threatening to kill me and all my friends and things like that. And I talk about this because it's something that we all lived by, we lived through. Obviously a lot of my friends are dead, and the things I've been through, they'll always affect me. I'm saying they're always going to bother me, 100%. So Carmine Lombardozzi goes to talk to Georgie DeChico. He pulls up with his Rolls Royce, and he mentions my name. He says, the kid Jimmy Calandra, I'm here to talk about him. He was involved in a shooting, you know, and I was the passenger in the car, I'm saying. And me and Joey, we planned that. We plotted that. Of course, Paulie G was involved in that. You know, everyone knows it was going down. I'm saying, you know, we really thought he killed John Polio. He threatened all of us. He threatened to kill all of us. He was shooting it out with Joey Calco at the time. They threw shots at each other, you know, and it was just a matter of time. You're going to kill us or we got to kill you. That's just the way it was. That's it. That's just the way it fucking was, you know. And, you know, in the streets, you live by the street law. You know, it's a fucking, you know, do or die. That's it. That's all it is. Do or die. You know, if you don't do it, then you're going to die. You know what I'm saying? If you do it, you're still going to die. You know, and that's the way it is. So Carmine sits down with Georgie DeChico. Of course, when Georgie DeChico sees Carmine, he's like, you know, wow. You know, this guy's coming to see me talking about this kid, Jimmy Calandra. And so Carmine, you know, says, listen, the kid Jimmy comes from a good family. I know some of his uncles, some of his family members. They're good people. You know, what happened here, the kid was a passenger car. And Carmine, I guess, says it, you know, the wise guy way. I'm saying? And the guy's not going to lose a sit down. I'm saying? So he comes back to my uncles and he tells them, he says, listen, everything's squashed. I sat down with them. But he tells my uncles, this is his words to my uncles. He said, listen, but don't trust them. He says, I sat down with them. You know, they said it's squashed, but don't trust nobody. That's what he relays to my uncle to tell me, okay? And not only, I also had Tommy Karate sit down for me. Paulie G talked about Tommy. Tommy went to go see Georgie. He sat down for me. And Mike DeSantis also went there and sat down for me. So I had a lot of people sit down for me just to show Georgie DeChico at the time that this kid Jimmy comes from a good family, you know, and, you know, we're willing to help him. And, you know, we're going to make sure nothing happens to him, you know. And the way Tommy Karate really put it with Georgie was, listen, if anything happens to his kid, you know, I'm just basically going to release all his friends, I mean, on you. And that's the way it was at that time, you know. And looking back, it was definitely a wrong way of handling it. I'm saying, because the old timers should have got involved very sooner. And all this would have never happened. And that's for sure. You know, but, you know, those were interesting times. You know, Paulie G was making a name for himself. Paulie G was killing people left and right. He didn't care. He just wanted to become a wise guy. And in my neighborhood, that's how it was. You wanted to become a wise guy. You do anything to become a wise guy. There was a lot of murders going on at that time. You know, murders on 18th Avenue. You had the two brothers over there, the Carini brothers. They were murdered. Louis Tuzio was murdered. You know, Gus Ferracci was murdered. Oh, you have a lot of people that were murdered in my neighborhood. And, you know, it was fucking crazy because everybody wanted to become a gangster. Now, today, you look at the gangsters, right? You really do. You look at the gangsters. The gangsters today, bro, who's on pills, how they making money, who's a gangster. You say, wow, mate, this guy's a gangster. Bro, today it's like, in all honesty, Bobby DeChico made a comment one time. They said, if they ever straighten out Joey Calco, they should shut down organized crime. That's what he said one time to me, right? And I said, you know what? Makes sense. So all the guys that are made today, in all honesty, they should go back on their families and check out who they straightened out. And they should fucking unstraighten them out, seriously. Because organized crime should be shut down. Seriously, the way it's being run, it should be shut the fuck down. Because today, well, I cooperate with the government, okay? Today, when someone gets straightened out and someone gets made in the family, I know. I fucking know. So there ain't no secrets in the street no more. All these guys, when they get straightened out, bro, they tell every fucking body, bro, I'm straightened out. So it's no big fucking deal. Years ago when you got straightened out, boy, you kept your fucking mouth shut. You know what I'm saying? And the people that knew you would tell the guys, yeah, he's straightened out. You know what I'm saying? But there ain't no titles no more because you got these now. Okay? Nobody gives a fuck. Believe me, nobody cares, bro. Nobody gives a fuck. At the end of the day, it's still do or die. And that's 100% for sure. But it's just a short video. I wanted to share this video with you. You know, I know you guys are very interested in all this mob stuff. You know, Frankie Joya, he tells a lot of these stories on his podcast, Frankie Joya Jr. You know, I'm not promoting the guy, but I tell you, he's got some good stories. And he's from Manhattan. And he talks about Sullivan Street, Prince Street, stuff like that. He was involved in killing Frankie Mariconda. He talks about his wise guy cousin, you know, street cousin, Frankie Sharp. You know, how he was a manipulator, things like that. But all these guys in that life are manipulators. They're all manipulators. They'll fucking manipulate you, and all they want is your fucking money. That's 100%. All they want is your money. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. It's all about money. You know, it ain't about killing people. Fuck killing people. Killing people is going to get you 25 years to life. So you don't want to go down that road killing people. Like Gas Pipe was killing everybody. You know, fuck that. You want to make money. It's all about making money. That's what it's all about. But guys, look, I got a lot going on in my life. First and foremost, I'm a father to my children. That's the most important thing to me, okay? Is being a father to my children. I love my children more than anything. They're my greatest masterpiece on this earth, 100%. I could never do better than them. Also, my life is to God. I love God more than anything. My faith never leaves me wherever I am. I could be in a cage like a dog, and my faith will always be there, okay? And I gave my life to God a long, long time ago, okay? And I could think about my mother and how my mother used to say, Jimmy, you can't serve two masters. And she had that right near in the bathroom. You can't serve two masters. I think when she wrote that down, she was just telling me, sending me a message. You know what I mean? Don't look up to these men. Look up to God. But enjoy your Sunday. I'm not sure if I'm going to make some sauce today. Maybe some pasta with some marinara sauce. Maybe some meatballs. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. But listen, if you have your mom and dad, I'm telling you, give them a hug and a kiss. Hold them tight. Hold them tight.